Hey everyone, it's me Gavin Vengeance, and welcome back to MyXP. Today, I want to talk to you about my personal favorite Final Fantasy series, Final Fantasy VI, or some of you may know it, Final Fantasy III in the US. This game holds a real special place for me, and it's mainly because it's the first RPG that I've ever played. It's the RPG that introduced me to the world of JRPGs and storytelling throughout a video game. Now, Final Fantasy VI for me, I started playing that, I think maybe when I was like 13 years old, and I was used to playing stuff like, Street Fighter or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in time, all kinds of like Super Nintendo games that I would usually rent on the weekend whenever my parents would give me my allowance. Final Fantasy VI, I always seen the game rented out whenever I'd go to the video store, and I always kind of wondered to myself, why is this game so popular? Why is it always gone whenever I go to rent a game? So it kind of intrigued me a little bit, and I was like, maybe I should try to reserve it in advance and try it out for myself to see, why it's always gone. At that time, the internet wasn't really something that everybody had access to. Like I said in my last video, computers weren't really something that everybody had in their household at that point in time. And you couldn't really find many reviews about games like that, or even games that were coming out, unless you went to gaming magazines like EGM or Nintendo Power, all those kind of magazines. But Final Fantasy III, Final Fantasy VI, for me, was a turning point in my life because it was at a time when I was kind of like, I didn't really want to be doing stuff in school, like, book reports or studying for tests and stuff like that. It was just kind of like, hang out with my friends, and I just wanted to have fun, and I didn't really understand the importance of school at that point in time. So playing a video game for me on the weekend was more of a reward than anything, and my parents made that apparent whenever, it was like, here, you can have a couple dollars to go and rent a video game on the weekend. I was only allowed to play it for a couple hours a day. Then I was pretty much told, go outside, play with your friends. So then we'd go out in like our backyard or whatnot, and I would immediately try to like start reenacting scenes from the game or whatnot. And I had a couple other friends that were really big into RPGs at the time too, so we were all like, oh yeah, we're Sabin or we're Edgar, or none of us wanted to be like any character that was a little bit awkward, like Umaro or Gogo or anything. But it was interesting nonetheless. You see that impact of the game, that it made you want to reenact it, and it was stories that stuck in your head. The music was on a whole other level as well. It was just something that you heard that opening theme, you were like, oh wow, okay, I'm in for an epic adventure. And like I said, it was at a time in my life where I was kind of like, I didn't really want to be doing stuff for school. I just wanted to be hanging out and having fun with my friends. And believe it or not, when the time came for us to do like book reports or whatnot for our English class, I didn't read the books. I didn't want to do any of that homework or anything, so I would write my book reports based on Final Fantasy games, and my teachers would always like talk to my parents and be like, maybe you shouldn't be playing video games so much, or he's writing book reports about video games, like maybe you should try to encourage him to read a book. And at that time it was completely unheard of, right? It was, oh, you got to do your homework, you can't obviously be telling a story through video games, he's playing too many video games are bad. But realistically, that was my medium. Like that's how I wanted to read. I wanted to read the dialogue in video games. I was more invested in those stories than I were in actual books, like paper books. And essentially, to me, in my mind, I got a lot more knowledge paying attention to video games because that was something I found interesting. I didn't see an interest in books, and I would read like a couple pages and then just be completely bored. I didn't want to read a book, whereas I wanted to play a game. I wanted to read the dialogue between the characters. I wanted to learn more about their world, more about their backstory. And I think that's something, like I said, that was really misunderstood at that time, and still kind of is misunderstood this day and age. Which is, it's a shame, really, because I know a lot of stuff now is voice acted and there's a lot less reading, but it doesn't go and say that there's no story in any of these games. There's nothing you can learn or take away from some of these experiences, especially now with the whole social aspect of online and whatnot. But Final Fantasy VI, for me, was a complete eye-opener in terms of being taken away to a different world and just experiencing that story and even placing yourself in the character's shoes to kind of reenact their world or the storytelling in it. So I'll always appreciate that game for that, and it went to show later in my life when, you know, we were quizzed on stuff in school, and just certain words teachers would ask you, like, do you understand the meaning of this? And, you know, nobody in my class would be able to tell them, you know, like, the understanding behind the word obtain, which is something so simple, but throughout the games, I would always read the dialogue, you know, you obtained this item or whatnot, so I would be the first one to answer and say, yeah, obtain means to receive, you found something, you got something. And sure enough, I was the one that would always get the highest marks in my English class, and I'm not trying to brag or anything, but it was because of these video games that I did the reading and I learned that stuff from. And Final Fantasy VI for me was just one of those games that, like I said, it introduced me to the whole world of just music. Nobuo Uematsu's music in Final Fantasy VI, I mean, he even regards that as one of his best soundtracks of all time. And it goes to show every single one of the songs in that game is completely, it's incredible. They're all completely amazing, and it's just something that'll go with you for the rest of your life. I mean, there's been times that I could hear a simple jingle and I'm like, whoa, Final Fantasy 3 immediately, or Final Fantasy 6, sorry, I gotta keep correcting myself. But, you know it as soon as you hear it, and the nostalgia factor that goes with seeing any media related to Final Fantasy 6 or even just, you know, hearing about it or hearing about other people's experiences with it it's really gratifying for me because that game means so much to me. It's one of the games that I've spent countless hours playing, and I'd never ever take back that time and wish it on something else or utilize that towards something else. It's something that I'll always have and hold near and dear to my heart. It's one of the best experiences and one of the best written stories, in my opinion, in any modern media, and that's why so many people regard it as such a classic. In the same regard as Final Fantasy 4 or 7 or 9 or 10 or even Chrono Trigger and series like that, everybody has their favorites, and it usually always stems to be your first Final Fantasy. That's the case with me in Final Fantasy VI. It's my first Final Fantasy, it was my introductory to the entire series, and after playing that game, I knew I had to play every other iteration of Final Fantasy. I knew I had to experience all the stories, I had to hear all the music, I had to meet all the characters and learn about their stories, and that's why I'm so passionate about Final Fantasy and Square Enix as a whole. Even through all the rough patches and the games that may have not hit so high of a mark, it's the series that I can most relate to, and that's why I wanted to start doing these videos and covering this content, just because of how much the franchise means to me. It's one of those things that, you know, it'll go with you for the rest of your life. And I know I'm saying that and I'm repeating myself, but you gotta understand that this game to me it was a complete changing, like, turning point in my life, and it's gonna go down as my favorite game of all time forever. And I can't gush about it enough. I mean, I could probably go on for hours about this game and just, you know, talk about every single character and what they mean to me and their backstory and, like, all the awesome moments, and even, you know, some of the shittier moments in the game, like Cyan losing his family and, you know, having to go to the Phantom Train and see them depart to the afterlife and everything. It's stuff like that, even that I go back now and play, that I didn't really wholly understand when I was younger, and you play it now and you're just like, holy wow, that emotional impact that it actually has. It goes to show that, you know, the story is something that's going to live on for a long time, and I urge anybody who hasn't experienced Final Fantasy VI to actually make an effort to go out and play it, give it a chance, play it all the way through, and I guarantee you'll see that the experience still holds up to this day. Like I said, it's considered a classic by many for a really good reason. And again, I know I'm just rambling on here, and I could keep talking about, like, you know, more experiences in my life with Final Fantasy, like how I couldn't get past Vargas for a couple of years because the terminology of cursor, which actually just means, you know, the pointer, the hand, the finger pointing at Sabin, I didn't understand what a cursor was. So, you know, I'd press into the blitz, and then whenever the aura would appear around them, indicating that, hey, you didn't put in the command properly, that's when I would try to be typing in, like, left, right, left. And I was like, why can't I do the pummel? For at least 2 years, until I went up to one of my cousin's house, and he was like, oh yeah, you just put the command here, and I was just like, man, I am so stupid for not realizing that's all I had to do. But again, it's one of those games that, you know, even though I couldn't get past that part, I was determined to get past that part, so I would constantly rent out that game any weekend that it was available. I'd always erase somebody else's file that was saved on the copy of the game. Never thought to go out and actually buy a copy of it. It was just, like I said, my allowance money always went into Final Fantasy 3, and I was just like, okay, I gotta beat this boss, and then, you know, complete facepalm whenever I figured out exactly how I was supposed to do it. And then after that, it was like, okay, no problem. Completely grinded through the entire game, like, before I even got past Vargas, so the rest of the game was a cakewalk for me. But still, it's all the little moments like that that make it so worth it and so meaningful to me. Yeah, I can't wait to talk to you guys next time about Final Fantasy VII, because I also have really good stories about that and very fond memories as well. But thank you guys again for watching. I really appreciate it. If you guys enjoyed my story, if you like my content, my reactions that I've recently posted as well, be sure to subscribe to my channel, and if you guys wouldn't mind, give it a like. I appreciate it very much. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.